What's up, guys? Kyle here. It's that time again, so stick around and see who I'm currently smoking with. What's going on, everybody? We are here with Aric Bey from Black Star Line Cigars. Say hi to everybody, Aric.
Hey, what's happening, everybody?
So, Aric and I met at an event here in Southern California at a place called Small Batch Cigar. Some of you might be familiar with that. It's the storefront's called Maximar, but they have a subscription service called Small Batch, which has become pretty popular. And Aric, you have your inventory at their shop now, so you guys have made it to Southern California. And is that the only storefront that you guys have your product there now?
There and then Oakland Tobacconist in Ukaipa.
Yes, that's right. Because like a day or so after the event I attended, you guys went to Oakland. So
Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm happy to hear that it's coming to California, just because when it comes to like boutique brands and stuff like that, obviously they originate from whatever state they're being developed in and whatnot, and trying to get them elsewhere can be tough, because you got to travel, you got to show up, and you got to talk with the
yeah,
store owners and everything like that. And it's not a whole lot of shop owners are crazy about taking on boutique cigars, unfortunately, just
yeah. That's true.
because. Yeah, well, just because they if they have full shelving in their inventory, because I represent a couple brands myself, and they're both boutique, going to
Yeah,
try and convince people to take on a newer, younger brand. They're just like, oh, I got this and it already sells. But I mean, boutiques are take boutiques are taking over, honestly. Most of the time when I go to events or cut and lights and things like that, it's usually a boutique cigar company.
hmm
um and they're starting to just become more popular and whatnot, because one of the beautiful things about boutiques I've found is that there's a lot more attention to the quality and everything like that, and that's what I love about them.
hmm
So
hmm
tell us a little bit about Black Star Line, when it got started, and however much background you want to give us about what you did before and after you got started with the cigar company.
Yeah, of course. So I started Black Star Line um, in August. It'll be 4 years. So we're just a
Okay.
little bit over 3 years in the cigar industry. I'm a retired Chicago firefighter, so that's when I started growing the love of the leaf in the firehouse. So I would be smoking, waiting for calls,
Oh yeah.
and that's when I really got associated with smoking cigars. So I started off smoking like I think it was a Black Pearl that I had, and it was terrible. And then I tried some infused cigars, and I thought those were pretty cool. But then I started going to the local lounges around here, and I started smoking a lot of Drew Estate stuff. So smoke Papa
Yep.
Fritas and T52s and the nines and Feral Pig, Flareal Flying Pigs. I smoked all of it. So like within a 2 week span, my palate changed because I tried to go back and smoke that same infused cigar that I liked before, and it tastes like straight trash. So I knew my days with infused cigars were done. So I was sticking more so between medium and full body cigars. So
I
I got the idea to start the business in my garage. That's where I smoke at. It's my man cave. So whenever the fellas want to come over, we all go in the. It's a detached garage, so my wife never comes out there. So it's where the fellas go, and we just out there talking cash, trash. You know what I'm saying? Just saying anything we
mm-hmm,
want and laughing. So I called
absolutely.
my buddy, a childhood friend of mine, and asked him did he want to start a cigar line with me because that's where I got the idea from. I was just sitting out there smoking. So
Yeah.
he said, "Hell yeah, let's do it." So we started networking at Drew Estate events, naturally because I'm smoking a lot of Drew Estate stuff, so I know their product very well. So
Yeah.
JD came because this is right around the time he was launching his liquor line. So he was coming here to Benny's, a big liquor chain here. So he was just hitting different locations. So every time he would come, I would go check him out. So each time I would talk to him, he would give us a little bit more who to talk to. So ultimately, he led us to El Titan de Bronze in Miami. So for those
Okay.
that don't know, that's Willie Herrera's family. His mother-in-law owns the factory. So calling. She wasn't in the factory because her mother was sick. So, and the factory was very small. So, she just didn't. Her and her mother just weren't there. She was taking care of mom.
Right.
So, I got to the point I wasn't hearing anything. So, I sent some flowers to her just to wish the family well. Still didn't hear anything. So, it was like maybe a month and a half or so after that. Out of the blue, I decided to call. And something
Yeah.
kept telling me like, dude, you need to call right now. So I called.
Right.
And her daughter, Sandy's daughter, Giselle, answered the phone. And I asked her, Sandy, and she was like, yeah, she's right here. Handed the phone over to her. So we told her who we were. And she was like, you the nice guys from Chicago that sent me those flowers, right? And I was like, yeah. She was like, you guys know how to treat a woman. So I'm going to do those blends for you. So, yeah, my
That's awesome.
persistence and bribing, I guess you can call it, helped me to get into the cigar industry because I was having a lot of trouble finding a factory I felt would be good enough to work with us.
Right.
So my first two blends came out of El Titan de Bronze, and fast forward from there, I became very good friends, and he's also my mentor with Sean Williams from Cohiba.
Okay.
So Sean came to Chicago, and so he was here. So I was like, let me go check him out, go talk to him, see what kind of information he got for me. So I went to the lounge. He has the Cohiba table set up and everything. And we're just talking, and smoking and talking. So he says, "Hey, what do you want to do with Black Star Line?" So I was like, I love El Titan because they gave me a shot when nobody else would. But due to the fact I'm buying tobacco in America, the cost is higher. So I was like, I'll prefer if I can kind of get the cost down some at least.
Oh yeah.
So he's like, okay. He's like, what, who you want to work with? You want to work with Sensei? You want to work with Aganorsa? He named several factories. So I'm a big fan of Kyle and Warped. So I said, and Kyle works with El Titan and Aganorsa back and forth. So I was like, hey, what's up with Aganorsa? I think that would be a good fit. So Sean was like, okay, no worries. Just give me a day or so. I'll get back to you. So he hit me up the next day, like, hey, I talked to the VP of sales, Terrence Riley, for you. He's waiting for you to call him. So I was like, cool. So I
Nice.
called him, and sure enough, he was waiting for me. So he was like, hey, what's going on, buddy? And blinking fast and shit. Like Terrence Riley does. So he 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 was like, hey, you know what? You have any blends in mind? And I was like, actually, I do. I actually have two of them. So I was like, can I email them to you? So he's like, cool. So I sent them over to wrapper binder filler to strengthen the body that I wanted for each of the cigars. Sent
Right.
it over to him. So he's like, all right, cool. He was like, I'm gonna get you some samples. So he got me the samples. One of the samples was Woolwich. The other sample was a cigar I probably never released because I didn't care for it. But for those that are fans of Woolwich, the original Woolwich is a Connecticut shade with a Nicaraguan binder and filler. The way Woolwich is now is the identical way it was when I first smoked it in sample mode. I didn't have to change a thing to that cigar or the blend or the ligero or the strength or nothing. Like it, the way it was, I was just blown away from Jump Street. And
Yeah.
I knew I had something magical. I just didn't know it was going to grow legs like it did because that particular cigar, it got me into the Stogie Press, the Tobacco Business Magazine, Cigars and Spirits, rated it number 3 for 2020. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so it really grew legs and it really became the flagship of the company, and it just propelled everything. And
Yeah.
that's when I got the idea for Dark Warwich because people kept asking for a Maduro version of the Warwich. And I was like,
Right.
okay, just give me a minute to think about it. I thought about it and I was like, yo, I'm going to use the same blend. But I was like, I'm going to put a Corojo 99 wrapper on it and put some Morley head on it to make it a little stronger.
Ooh,
And that
nice.
Joker came out phenomenal. Like, in my opinion, the second version is better, but people still gravitate towards the original. That's because it's a Connecticut and it's not it's not your ordinary Connecticut. It actually has some strength to it. It's got spice and pepper, and it's creamy. It's very very flavorful cigar. So,
Right.
mm,
Well, I know that like there's significance behind the names that you use, not only for your company but for cigars, but tell people a
yeah.
little bit about the meaning behind Black Star Line, because I'm pretty sure most people don't, particularly those of us who are of Caucasian persuasion, have no idea what that means. I know what it means because of our friend Paula Chicks and Sticks. She told me about
Yeah.
it. I thought that was pretty cool. But tell everyone what the significance of Black Star Line.
Yeah, long story short, Black Star Line is Marcus Garvey's shipping company. So he had the idea of shipping people and goods back to Africa. He got the name from the White Star Line, and the White Star Line is the company that built the Titanic. So the Black Star Line was a spinoff of that name.
Mhm.
So I wanted to pay homage to Marcus Garvey because a lot of people know about Malcolm X or Martin Luther King or whatever
Right.
historical figure you may know about. A lot of people don't know about Marcus Garvey. So I just wanted to shine some light on him, and
Which
and hopefully,
which
hopefully
admittedly,
his energy,
yeah,
yeah,
no,
hopefully
which
his energy is
admittedly I
shining
didn't.
down on us.
Yeah, admittedly I didn't know what it meant just because, and then Paula explained it to me, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty incredible. And it's one of the kind of like you said, uh he I never was never taught about him, in
Mm-hmm.
school in history. I mean, we studied people like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. and everything. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, he was never named him, which is unfortunate because that's a pretty significant point in that in
yeah,
African American history and stuff like that. Because
yeah,
all the the shipping and cruise liners, they were just full of white people. They wouldn't let black people onto their business,
yeah.
and which is unfortunate. So it's incredible that that was established um,
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
that reason. So I think that's pretty cool. Now tell people about the significance behind War Witch, which I also thought was really cool.
Well, which is a movie.
Yeah.
So I saw the movie years ago.
Hmm.
And I just love the movie because I love like spiritual stuff and all that type of thing. So it's about a young
Right.
lady in the Congo in Africa that had spiritual powers to see her ancestors. So the local army like kidnapped her and took her with them. So anytime they were getting ready to get attacked, her ancestors would actually show up so she could see them, and they
Hmm.
would warn her like either they like, hey, y'all getting ready to get attacked, so you either need to strategize to fight or run. So that's why I chose the name War Witches. I thought it was cool. And that's another thing. A lot of people have never even heard of that movie. So I love talking about it on the interview because a lot of people try to go look it up. Now, it
Yeah.
is hard to find. It used to be on Netflix years ago. It's not on there anymore.
It's actually on
Last
Tubi
place,
now. It's on
is
Tubi
it?
now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it was on
So
Amazon Prime for a little bit, but I think they took it off of there too. So,
yeah, because I think they tend to recycle a lot of movies over to Tubi that were once on Netflix
okay.
or Hulu and stuff like that. I mean, some are, really big name movies, and others are more obscure hidden gems. And I
Hmm.
definitely plan on checking out that movie because Paula told me about it, and then I'm like, where can I watch it? And she had no idea. So I looked it up. I'm like, okay, that's my next watch on Tubi
Yeah.
because Tubi has a lot of really great films that people don't even know
Hmm.
about. And especially if you're into things like thrillers and horror and stuff like that, and just
Okay.
other obscure films, you're gonna have a good time. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely gonna check that one out. So how many uh how many blends do you have? How many cigars do you have in your lineup right now?
So yeah, El Milagro Corojo, El
Hmm.
Milagro Sungrown, Warwich, Dark Warwich, and Lalibela. So five.
Okay. Now the El Milagro Corojo, was that the blue band or is that the
That's the red and black band. So I
okay,
did
so
that color scheme for firefighters.
okay, got
Yeah.
it. So I had the blue band. That's what I had. That was my first cigar when
Yeah.
I attended the event, which was very good. I enjoyed it
No,
a
thank
lot.
you.
And
Yeah, and I did the blue and black band for police officers. So
right, right, exactly. That's which is awesome. How many years were you a firefighter?
7.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
yeah. I tore my labrum in my hip really bad, and I
mhm.
had to go through 4 different doctors to find one that was confident enough to fix it. So
Oh wow.
Uh, yeah, it took me too long to get back on the job, so they put me on duty disability. I
Mm.
collect a portion of my pension, and then I travel around and run my mouth about cigars.
Hey, if it's a problem, it's a good problem to have, really. So, because I can tell, you know, just from our first meeting, just how much you love what you do and
Yeah.
how much you enjoy talking with people and telling people about, the cigars you make and what goes into them and everything. Getting to hang out with you and Tony from, Casa de Sueños and everything like
Hmm.
that. It was a great time. and it's one of the best parts about being a part of the cigar community, whether you're just a person who enjoys cigars or you're a manufacturer.
Yeah.
Um, it's one of the most beautiful parts of it, just because you get to have these great conversations about, I mean, everything, not just cigars, but it yeah, it was, I was really glad that Benny, for those who don't know who I'm talking about, our friend Sisters in Smoke, she was for the longest time she would message me and give me no end of shit for not being always able to go out and stuff. And she's like, "You able to come out of your bunker yet?" I'm like, "Leave me alone. I mean, I'm busy doing stuff." And then she finally said, "You come out your bunker for this one?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come out for this one." She was surprised,
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
glad that
I'm glad
was.
you did.
I'm glad
Yeah.
I did too. So, but I was kind of surprised that, and maybe this is just me, because like some people's like, "Oh, I know who you are." I'm like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, people know who you
Mm.
are." And then when I'm when we first started talking, you're like, "Yeah, I heard about you." And the way you knew about me, this was the funny part to me,
Hmm.
was back when I did Dad Smoking Cigars with my friend Tim Long, who now has his own channel called Cigar Show Tim. It was
Hmm.
because he ordered 200 glasses for a cigar event that never happened. And how
Oh,
did you
wow.
hear about that again?
I
How did
was
you?
ordering glasses from the same place, and they were like, "Hey, you excuse me, we should connect you with the guy that does a podcast called Dad Smoking Cigars." And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool." Now the connection never happened; it just happened. It
Right,
happened in person. But yeah,
right.
no, they mentioned it to me. I forget the rep's name that I talked to from
Mhm.
from distillery, but yeah, they were like, "Yeah, you do cigars. He has a cigar podcast. That would be a good match." And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool." It just the connection just never. The connection happened years later, and then we just
Right.
happened to run into each other. So.
It was delayed. It was delayed. But I
Hmm.
think the distillery in question was Redwood Empire, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. Because
Hmm.
that was the whiskey brand, that, because it's a whole big convoluted story, but basically the whole thing was, well, I say we, but Tim wanted to put on a cigar event and had everything lined up, and it was good to
Hmm.
go. It was going to be in Arizona at a cigar lounge, which sadly no longer exists. Um,
Hmm.
and the date we had it set was in March of 2020. So you can probably
Okay.
guess how that went. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everything was set up. All he ordered 200 glasses, and all the manufacturers were ready to go. And then all of a
Hmm.
sudden, no gatherings of 50 people or more, and things like, because they kept
Yeah.
shrinking the number, saying like, "Oh, you can do 150, oh, 100, okay, no more than 50." And it's just like, well, that's a bust then. And they basically said,
Hmm.
yeah, they were closing down a whole bunch of cigar lounges and stuff out there. And um
Wow.
it just never happened, which broke my heart for Tim, because he that's his wheelhouse. He's an
Yeah.
event guy. And
Okay.
it was just a bummer. But it's just kind of funny when I think about it, just that obscure detail that, you're ordering glasses, and then you hear about us, and then radio silence,
Right.
and then like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I know who you are." So, which
Yeah.
which was kind of cool, because it was just like, it's one of those things where like, and I and people like will ride me for this a little bit, like, "Don't say that." I'm like, in terms of like cigar influencers, I'm a
Mm.
relative nobody, in that
Okay.
I don't have thousands upon thousands of subscribers. I don't have like endorsement deals left and right. I'm very fortunate to do what I do, and have what I have.
Hmm.
But I don't assume people know who I am. I always try to, I introduce myself, tell them what I do, and some
Hmm.
people happen to know who I am. So it's kind of cool. The only taste of celebrity I think I'll ever get.
Hmm. Oh
So,
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
so,
But
so
you see,
what's
I had
next?
been following you the whole time. Like, and
Yeah, and
I
it would.
actually forgot I was following you.
Yeah,
But
that's happens all the time, because like I
mm,
used like, yeah, I was like, yeah, I'll follow you on Instagram. Oh wait, I already do. It's like I
hmm.
I lose track sometimes as well, just because I follow a lot of really great people, and people
Yeah.
follow me back as well, and so it's just like you lose track. But it just goes to show that the best connections are in person usually.
Indeed.
So, but so what's next for Black Star Line? What are you developing any new blends, or is this just mainly promoting the ones
Yeah.
that you already have?
No, 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 no. In my phone, I probably have 8 more blends in my notes. I'm just ready. I'm just chambering them up, just getting them
Mm-hmm.
ready. But what I got coming out soon is it's a release I'm doing through Tabacalera La Isla. So that's the same factory Chinchale came from with Ward.
Okay.
So it's a Connecticut broadleaf with a Dominican binder and Nicaraguan and Dominican filler. It's medium
All
full.
right.
I'm doing this cigar particularly for NFG down in Underground. So that's every March or so. I think it's March.
Okay.
So it's in it for those that don't know, NFG stands for No Fucks Given. So that's the big it's the big cigar fest Underground has every year.
Okay.
Um, I did miss one year of doing a special release for them, and I was really hurt by that because I always release new
No.
stuff through there. So I'm not. That was 3 years ago that I missed it, but I did a special release last year. That's when I released the limited edition Lalibela Lancero.
Mm-hmm.
This time, like I said, Connecticut broadleaf, Dominican binder, Dominican and Nicaraguan filler. So through Tabacalera La Isla, so I'm starting to do some business with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ostos, the owner of the factory, is actually Terrence Riley's cousin. So I was like, I'll keep working with the family and see how we do.
No, absolutely.
Um, yeah, so that's the latest release that I'll have coming out. I am working on something with somebody else that I'll announce once we finalize it. But
Hush.
this
Mum's
gentleman
the word, right?
yeah, this gentleman approached me at Heritage Fest, and he just flat out said like, "Hey man, you wanna let's do a cigar together?" And I was like, "You wanna do it with me on the level you're on?" And he was like, "Dude," he was like, "You can help me, and I can help you. Let's do it." So we've been having Zoom calls and that type of thing, discussing
Mm-hmm.
like what we're gonna do. So I'll be announcing that sometime soon once we finalize some stuff. So
No, of
he's
course.
a he was
That
a
that
yeah he was a great master blender. So he just
okay.
moved on to his own stuff. So
No,
yeah.
for
So
sure.
if you put yeah, if you think about it, you could probably think about who that is. But
There's a couple names in my head, but I won't say them aloud.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so that's the latest thing I'll have coming out is and I think I'm just the name of that cigar is just simply going to be NFG 23 uh for Underground. So I'm not gonna try
Keep
to
it
come up with some
simple.
kind of special name of it. Yeah. After they sell those out, I'll probably release them nationwide
Mm-hmm.
for the masses to get because everybody want if you don't get a ticket or a non-attendee ticket to the NFG, then you can't buy until the whole event is over. Then that depends on if I sell out the cigars at the event or not, because I'll actually
Right.
be at the event selling them myself. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, man. So that's the latest release that I have coming out.
Okay.
Other than that, through Aganorsa, I'll probably release some new sizes of the current lineup. Because right
Okay.
now for La Libella, I have a Gordo and I have a Toro. El Milagro is just Corona 6x46. The original Warwick comes in a Lancero Robusto and Lancero Robusto and Corona box press, and then Dark Warwick is a Robusto and a Corona box press. So somebody's going to get a new sibling in there somewhere in the size, and I don't know which one it'll be.
Yeah.
It could be a Dark Warwick Pig, which is I've smoked those. Those are phenomenal. So I
Okay.
could bring that out, or I could do a Toro version of the El Milagros, or it's a lot of stuff I could play with the sizes, and and bring a whole different size to one of the lines. So
Right.
that's what it'll be for the existing lines. I do have a blend with the Corojo 2012 wrapper, and I did it for a particular company. I'm just waiting for them to let me know when they want to pull the trigger on them. Having the bands developed and everything, so I'm just waiting for them to let me know, like, hey, how many do you want, and then so I can put it in production. So,
So this is a question I haven't thought to ask because I've spoken with a handful of manufacturers, whether I did in interviews or I was just hanging out with them at an event.
mm-hmm.
But like, how fun is it for you to figure out blends or kind of think things up in your mind on what would be good and all that kind of stuff? Like, is that something that is like the best part of developing the cigar, or is that the hardest part?
It's fun to me because I'm
Yeah.
always thinking about blends. People laugh at me because I tell them I'm like, I'll be at home vacuuming the floor, and then I'll be like, man, that Sumatra wrapper will go good with like Jalapa and the Steli and the filler, and then, but
Yeah.
I'm vacuuming like but what can I put as the binder? Don't just do one binder, do two binders, to add a little depth to it. Like, yeah, so that's fun to me. Like, I'm sort of like a rapper. Like a rapper will be around the house and they're just freestyling while they're cooking eggs, or So I'm always, I'm always thinking about tobacco, bro.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people appreciate about me is I don't white label cigars. I don't go just buy go down to Tampa to Ybor City and buy a bunch of bundles and just slap my band on it. No, every blend that I have, I did it. Now, did
Yeah.
I roll them? No, Aganorsa rolls them. I don't roll
Mhm.
cigars, but the ideas and the concept and the strength and the body of the cigar, all that comes from me. So, um, so a lot of people appreciate it because I don't hide what factories I'm from. I'm El
Mhm.
Titan all day. I'm Aganorsa, and now Tabacalera La Isla. So
Mhm.
you can if you didn't believe me, you could do research on it. There's
Right.
always I'll always leave a paper trail of what I've done. So
Yeah.
because I'd always wanted to be like Pete Johnson. I always wanted to be like Skip and Mike from Roma Craft. Those are my guys. Those are the people I look up to. Or Sean
Mhm.
Williams. All of those they're blenders, and that's exactly what I wanted to be. So
Right.
I'm on my way. I'm still a baby, but I'm on my way.
Well, it sounds like, you've taken the time to obviously get educated on how to develop blends and stuff like that. Because that's something I'm curious about. And it's one of those things where like bucket list for sure, getting the chance to go to like a factory and like make up a blend and because I've had a couple friends who did that, whether they were brokers or they
Mm-hmm.
worked for the manufacturers directly. They went to their factory and they, picked out, certain types of tobacco to, blend as filler, binder, and wrapper and stuff like that. And then they had their own cigars rolled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do you educate yourself on that? Is it just through trying them over and over again, finding out what works together, or is
Yeah.
there a way you can just on paper learn it before you start actually trying it?
Well, I mean, you could always read about different tobacco and the characteristics of it, but the best
Mm-hmm.
way to get to know that tobacco is smoking it. So
Right.
that's why I don't smoke the same thing at all. Like people ask me all the time, like, uh, do you smoke your own cigars all the time? I'm like, fuck no, how boring would that be? Now, of course, in my mind, yeah, it's my blends are the best out of anybody's out there, but that's because I'm biased because they're my blends. But that's like eating the same meal every day. You're going to get tired of that crap.
Oh yeah.
So, and then your palate doesn't grow unless you keep smoking different types of tobacco and different
Right.
blends and different companies and see what they're doing and that type of thing. So when I'm putting blends together, I'm really experimenting with
Mm-hmm.
combinations. What seals the deal is my palate.
Right.
So the way my palate is, man, I could pick out the stuff in there, and I could tell you if the cigar is good or if it's trash or the tobacco is young or that type of thing. So I that's why I have to keep smoking good cigars, bad cigars. I'll even try to power through a bad one just so I can see exactly what I don't want in mine. So because everything, all that stuff is muscle memory. So even with the
Right.
bad ones, you gotta smoke some of it at least so like, oh yeah, that's that ammonia taste in there. Oh, that's bitter or
Yeah.
whatever it's gonna be. You know.
Yeah.
So that helped me out tremendously, bro. Because like I said, in my personal collection of cigars, I can go. I smoke three when I'm not sick because I'm sick now. But I'll smoke three cigars a day, every day. I could do that for 2 weeks with my personal selection and not smoke the same brand in 2 weeks.
Oh
So
wow.
I became a collector. So I just get stuff, and sometimes I don't smoke it. A lot of times I'm smoking samples. But then when I'm just leisurely smoking, I'll pull out some stuff and sit up and smoke it and smoke something else. And because anytime you just keep smoking the same brand, like you run into these people and they're like, oh yeah, that's all I smoked for the last 20 years is Romeo and Julieta. And I'm like, damn, I'm really sorry about that. Because one, they're not good. Those aren't good blends. And then you're just smoking the same thing over and over
Mm-hmm.
and over again. So
I had a conversation yesterday because with another manufacturer, a guy by the name of Antonio Lamb of Reynado. He also produces his cigars has his cigars produced through Aganorsa.
Oh, Reinado.
Dio, yes, sir.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
know you. I never met him, and I never had the blends before, but yeah, I know who you're talking about though.
yeah, and he's just we were discussing that like people that we've encountered or know who say like, oh, I only smoke Padrones or I only smoke this, and the question is like, why? Why would you do that?
Well,
That's like you said, it's the same damn meal over and
uh-huh.
over again. It's like,
Yeah,
why the fuck would you subject yourself to just repetition when you could try so many
yeah,
different blends of that? Because like what you were talking about like, you know, your palate, trying different blends of cigars, different types of, you know, good ones, bad ones, everything in between. It makes me think of my stepmom because my stepmom, first of all, she's half Mexican, half Italian, and she can cook like nobody else I know. The amazing thing about her though is that she can reverse engineer a meal by tasting another one. Like she
oh
could
wow,
like, well, let's just say for instance she buys a jar of jam or jelly from the store. Like in, you know,
mm-hmm.
she can taste it without looking at the label. She could tell you what's
Mm-hmm.
in it just by tasting it, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
she can make it herself probably better than the
Yeah,
person whose jar is on the shelf in the store. So you know, you saying what, you know, talking about like, you know, trying and discovering, that kind of makes me think of that because that's how you discover what you want in your cigars, what works, what
yeah,
doesn't work. It's kind of a
mm-hmm.
reverse engineering of, you know, what blends work together, what, you know, particular types of tobacco leaf and filler,
Yeah,
binder, wrapper, everything, because it all it comes together. It has to come together in a way that's cohesive. I mean, some cigars are
mm-hmm.
really complex, which I
No,
do
yeah,
enjoy a complex cigar. But then honestly, the cigars I enjoy most tend to just have like a nice consistency to them
yeah,
where, you know, they're not doing backflips in your mouth. You know, which can be fun. But, you know, for the most part, it's just, you know, you're enjoying something that has a consistency and a pleasurable experience instead of like a, you know, a rock concert, I guess you could say, where you're just going nuts.
yeah,
But so
no, yeah,
it's a process that it never ceases to fascinate me, and
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's something I hope to try eventually. Again, bucket list. You know, it's
Yeah,
something I would
yeah,
really love to do one day. But that's awesome, man, and it's I really appreciate and respect the fact that you are um you know, taking that initiative to be your own blender because you know what you like to smoke, and you know,
yeah,
you've heard what other people like to smoke, and combining all that knowledge between what you already know about various and different tobaccos,
mm-hmm.
um you know, that's a recipe for creating a, you know, a good cigar. I mean,
Oh
you may
yeah,
not have a winner every single time you put one out because, you know, everybody has a different palate, everybody has a different opinion, but
mm-hmm.
you know what's good and you know what's not, and
Yeah,
that's true. The cat want to
yeah.
say
She's
hi.
over here. Yeah, she's over here trying to say what's up.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, you know, another thing that helped me out was I started cooking a lot more here at the house to just give my wife a break or whatever.
Yeah.
So as I'm cooking, I'm just tasting different seasonings and that type of thing, you know.
Hmm.
Also, scraping your tongue helps out a lot with your palate. Because a lot of people
That's
don't scrape their tongue,
I
and
should do that more just to kind of open it up.
yeah, yeah. So because
Yeah.
you know you get a lot of buildup and stuff on your tongue, and it'll you know it could alter your taste a little bit. So that helps out a lot. And even
Yeah.
neti pot, yeah, neti pot to cleanse out your nose that helps out tremendously too.
I should probably
Because
do that because yeah,
yeah, retrohaling is if you really want to taste everything in the cigar, you retrohale
I
it,
do it all the
and you'll get
time.
it. Yeah,
All the
so
time.
I tell
I
people all the time, if I retrohale the cigar, you're not going to be able to. If there's some trash in there, you're not going to be able to hide it from me because I'm tasting, I'm engaging every sense I got to taste that cigar. And if there's
Yep.
something in there that shouldn't be, I'm going to taste it. So,
Yep.
mm-hmm.
That's I've had some pretty amazing and powerful retro hills, and other times I was just like, oh dear God, what is that? What did I just taste right now? That was no,
Right.
get it away from me. I don't want it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's a rarity, honestly, because I don't think I've ever really smoked too many like full on just bad cigars, like smoked it and
Okay.
then thought this is absolute dog shit. There's only been a
Yeah.
couple
Yeah.
of those. and
Mm-hmm.
which is a story for another time, because I could go on and on about a couple of those things, and it was pretty funny and experience. I can laugh about it now, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's really important to know all the ways that you can open up your palate
Yeah.
and really experience the cigars, because prior to really diving into the cigar community, I smoked cigars just to smoke them.
Yeah.
I didn't really think too much about flavor or my palate or anything like that. That didn't occur to me, because I'm thinking, well, I'm not smoking flavored cigars, so what
Mm-hmm.
flavors are you talking about? And now, I mean, I wouldn't do what I do if I wasn't diving into that and trying to give my in-depth thoughts and on everything that was going on and what I'm
Right.
smoking.
Mm-hmm.
So, because that gives you the full experience. Some people don't care about that. Fine, they're missing out. But
Yeah.
some people don't care
Oh
about
yeah.
that as much. They just like to smoke. I
Mm-hmm.
love getting the full experience from my cigars,
Oh yeah.
even if they're
And
my
it gets even
go-tos and I
more
smoke them all
fun.
the time. Yeah,
Yeah, it gets even more fun when you start. Not only are you enjoying the cigar, but then you start learning how to pair different spirits with whatever you're smoking. Because like
mm-hmm.
we've done pairings for every one of the cigars that we got. So,
Right.
uh, mhm. So that also, in my opinion, it helps to increase the experience, because not only am I telling you, about the cigar, but now I'm telling you about my experience that I've had pairing it with a scotch or a bourbon or a rum, and then
Right.
I always challenge people like, hey, this is my pairing for this. If you can find one that's better than that, then let me know. But I
Yeah.
was like, as it stands right now, XYZ is the one for, whatever cigar we're talking about. So,
Developing, your cigars through different pairings and whatnot. Like, is there any one cigar that you would say you have to pair it with this, or you really should pair it with this? Like, if you could come up with an example, like what's one of your favorite pairings with any one of your cigars?
well, let's see. Dark Warwick can be paired with either Boofy's gin, the Room
Mm-hmm.
101 gin. It goes really well with that, surprisingly, because I hate gin, but I like his gin. And then Willet Pot Still is the pairing for that. The whiskey pairing for Dark Warwick is that. For the original Warwick is Four Roses Single Barrel.
Oh, I love that one.
Lalibela is Larceny, and the Larceny small batch. What am I
Yeah.
missing? So El Milagro Corojo is Port Charlotte 10,
Okay.
because the peat and then that Corojo go really well together.
Okay.
And then the sun-grown Habano is Brook Lottie again. It's Brook Lottie Port Charlotte 10, but then for the sun-grown Habano is Brook Lottie Classic Lottie. So because it has a lot of
Okay.
fruit notes in the drink, so it helps to bring out that in the natural sweetness of the tobacco. It goes really well with the natural sweetness of the tobacco from the sun-grown Habano and everything else in the cigar. So yeah, so those are the pairings that I have for my current line. You know.
I need to broaden
Um,
my horizons, because I tend to pair everything with either with bourbon mostly, because it
yeah,
works really
yeah, I
well.
do
I like the
scotch.
natural
Yeah,
sweetness.
oh yeah. I do scotch most of the time, and then
Yeah.
bourbon, and I drink mezcal, but I don't really do a lot of pairings. I drink that because I like the smoke taste in it. But yeah, and then gin is, like I said, Boofy's gin. That's the only gin I'll drink. All the other ones are just so basic to me.
I never
So
drank gin before, and it's one of those things where, like, I tend to, with cigars, I'm pretty open minded. Like, I'll try just about anything, and whatever cigars are out
mm,
there people recommend. And there have been some where people said, "Oh, these are incredible," and they were not. And then others where the people
mhm.
were like, "Oh, they were just okay," and I'm like, "This is amazing. What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then with with alcohol, I'm not quite as adventurous, because I love whiskey. You give me any
yeah,
bourbon rye or blended scotch, and I'm a happy man. I like some Irish whiskeys too.
yeah.
I mean, you really can't go terribly wrong with any variation of whiskey, unless
Hmm.
unless the only time it went absolutely wrong, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it, seen it, tried it. If you haven't tried it, don't bother. Um,
Mm,
my dad, one time, because I smoke a lot with my dad, which
mm,
shouldn't surprise anyone. It's called Dad Smoking Cigars because of him.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I went over to his house, and this was like in the very midst of the early days of the pandemic. There was a virtual whiskey tasting that he was doing where they
Mm,
send you the whiskeys, like, little samples and stuff. And I can't remember what the other two ones were. Apparently, they weren't that memorable either.
mhm.
But one was a peat bourbon, and that
Okay.
stuff tasted like sewer water.
Yeah.
Like it tasted like somebody just stuck peat moss in some water, added a dash of bourbon, let it sit for a
Yeah.
while. And I
Yeah.
took a sip of, I'm like, oh my God, what is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Whistle Pig released a limited edition, like it's called like Smokehouse or something like that, and it's supposed to be, like peated or whatever. And I bought the bottle because I love peat. It was gross. It was really. I was like, bro, leave that for the people in Scotland. Like, this is not your forte.
Yeah,
Like
Scotch
this.
is,
I was
I
like,
think
it doesn't
is,
work.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think Scotch is the only profile of whiskey that you should ever like have that kind of flavor in. Maybe
Yeah.
Irish whiskey, but bourbon, it just,
Yeah.
there's just some things you don't mix. I think that's the only like really bad
Yeah.
whiskey that I've ever had,
Yeah.
because you
Because
could,
like Teeling has a expression called black pits, and
Mhm.
it's peated, and it's very good.
What's the brand again?
Teeling, it's Irish whiskey.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Add
called
that to
black
my
pits.
ever-growing list.
And yeah, that expression is phenomenal. So to your point, yeah, the Scottish and Irish, they seem to be able to work with Pete better than others because that Whistle Pig was bad.
Well, bourbon's just an entirely different profile of
Yeah.
whiskey, and you can't. There's just certain things you can't nor should you mix with it, and
Mm,
it's not something you want to try and add too much of a smoky or peaty flavor to, because it just doesn't work. And
mm,
especially if you're going to pair it with a cigar, you want to make sure that that pairing is gonna, you know, marry well with the notes in a cigar. Because if you're
yeah.
drinking swell water, you're not going to be it's not going to pair with your cigar. It's just going to be nasty. You're going to
Right.
smoke the cigar to cover up the taste of what you're drinking.
Right.
um
Right.
Now, question, because I've only ever had this happen once, and I don't know why it came to mind, but have you ever smoked a cigar so strong that it actually killed your palate, like you couldn't smoke anything else afterwards?
Mm, not that I noticed. Um, And I mean that's like me smoking like the Mistress by Cornelius and Anthony. That cigar is just stupid strong for no reason. All you just taste all the hetero in there.
Yeah.
But I smoked after that, and I could still taste stuff. Yeah, no, that's never happened to me before. The thing is like if you keep smoking strong stuff all the time, then it's like you can't really come down from it. You got to kind of like just stop smoking for a little bit and let your palate just calm down.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just because Lalibela is a strong cigar,
Hmm.
but like some people are like, man, it's not as strong as I thought it was gonna be. And I asked them like, well, how strong do you smoke on a normal basis? And they're like, they like to get punched in their face all day, every day, So, and I was like, oh well, yeah, if you're doing that all the time, then yeah, a lot of stuff is not gonna be strong but
Yeah.
I fluctuate. I can go down to medium. I won't go below medium because then I won't taste it. I'll be bored. But
Yeah.
I can smoke a cigar that's medium body, medium strength, all the way up to full body, full strength.
Hmm.
And I'm fine. I keep going back and forth because that keeps exercising my palate and it keeps my palate like dancing a little bit. It's not just getting used to the same, going back to that same meal that you're eating all the time. It's the same
Hmm.
thing if you're just smoking the
Right.
same strength all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried to. I usually keep it in like around medium for a while, and then I try to smoke something stronger. And then like right now, I'm
Yeah.
smoking kind of a milder cigar because they tend to go better with coffee.
Okay.
Um, I mean, you can smoke a really strong cigar with your coffee. I mean, it really doesn't matter. There's no rules
Yeah.
against that, but there's very few things that are better than like a mild, mildly sweet Connecticut with a cup of coffee. I mean, I don't know how you take your coffee. I like mine sweet. So that with I get made fun of for that all the time, because they're like, you know, it's like,
Mm.
what's the matter with you, man? Why you can't drink your coffee like a man? Just drink it straight. It's like, well, it depends on the coffee, and Yeah, I like mine sweet. So you enjoy your dirty bean water, and I'll have my delicious pseudo latte in the morning.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. But
Yeah, I actually don't drink coffee, bro. I sell
really,
coffee. I don't drink it though. Yeah. Um, the reason for that is like I would when I do drink it just straight up because I want to get the notes. Everything goes back to the notes and the palate and
right,
developing the
right,
palate,
right.
right? Whereas the sugar and stuff in it masks whatever's going on in the coffee. So, but that's not the reason why I don't drink it. I'm sort of like a trumpet player, bro. Like, you know, if a trumpet player has chapped lips or they get a little crack in their lip, they feel like they can't play. So if I'm drinking something and it burns my tongue, I feel like I can't taste the coffee. I mean, not the coffee. I can't taste the cigar.
Right.
So if your tongue is burnt, now I'm irritated, because it hurts, and then you're like, fuck, I can't. There are some other notes in here, but I'm not getting them because the taste buds are burnt. So
Yeah.
I just keep it safe and I keep this scotch and bourbon because I can pour that right out the bottle and drink it right away instead of having to wait for it to cool off. So
Right, right. Now it makes me think of like, I've heard of these like chefs and even food critics who they literally have insured their palate, essentially their tongue, for
yeah.
like hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, depending on how, how prominent they are, how much there's excuse me,
Mm,
how, famous they are for, critiquing and trying food. I'm like, that is the craziest shit I've ever heard in my life, to
yeah.
have like your mouth insured for like hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Like, it must be nice, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah. The
it
money
goes to
maker.
the same thing. Yeah, right.
Hmm.
Um, but it all goes back to the same idea. Like, if you're creating cigars or critiquing cigars, reviewing them and things like that, you got to make sure your palate's intact, because you burn the shit out of it like you had soup or hot
Yeah.
drink or something like that. You're just like, well, this might be a little bit of a one note review or something like that. And I've had that happen where I'm like, I
Yeah.
earlier in the day and I'm doing a review later that day, and
Hmm.
I had something a little bit too hot and burned the crap out of my mouth. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
well, this might have been a mistake, or just, and it always ends up being fine. I end up
Yeah.
being able to taste what I want to taste out of the cigar, but
Mm.
it does mute the experience a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
which kind of, you're missing the point at that time. So, but
Right.
yeah, and especially when you're sick, you can't taste shit, you know.
Yeah. That's why I'm not smoking now.
Yeah.
I was like, because I was trying to get myself geared up to go out to the garage. And, I
Hmm.
had to turn it because I always leave the heat on low when I'm not in there. I leave the heat
Yeah.
on like 65 degrees, so it's not absolute warm, but it knocks the chill out of there.
Right.
So, but when I go in there, I turn it up to like 90, and then I get real comfortable in there and take my hoodie off and just relax.
Yeah.
So my intentions were to be out there smoking and having a drink while I'm talking to you, and I just my body just doesn't want it right now. So,
No, man, that's I'm sorry to hear that, because that's it's rough at any time, whether you're doing something like this, or there's an event, or you just want to smoke a cigar. You're like, God damn it,
yeah,
I'm
because
not going to get anything out of this.
I was actually out with the Cigar Dojo guys, the Chicago chapter of Cigar Dojo. We meet up once a month. So
Hmm.
not yesterday. What is today? Monday. Okay,
Yeah.
this past Saturday was our monthly herf. So we all met up. We're sitting there smoking, and I'm fine, just smoking, enjoying talking, having a good time. And then I noticed, I was like, dude, why do I keep like kind of coughing a little bit? So I just took it as like I was just breathing too much smoke, secondhand smoke or whatever,
Hmm.
because the ventilation in the lounge wasn't the greatest. So I was like, maybe it's bad. So then as I'm driving home, I started feeling like a tickle in my throat, and I'm like,
Oh
oh
crap.
shit. And then by the time I got here, I my birthday's on Thursday, so I went to Benny's on Friday and just bought a couple of $100 worth of bottles, and I was like, that's my personal birthday present to myself.
Hmm.
So I have found Signatory does an expression of Bunnahabhain. So this is a Bunnahabhain 6. It's a Scotch,
Okay.
but this particular one is 124 proof, which is Bunnahabhain is usually right around between 80 and 90 proof. So, but that wasn't a special thing about it though. The
Oh,
special thing was it was on sale for $40. So
holy
I was
shit.
like, score, score,
What?
yes.
Oh, hell
So
no.
I got
Ugh.
back here and I'm drinking it, and I'm just like, and that's when I knew I was getting sick because like it wasn't flushing out whatever was tickling my throat. It was kind of like aggravating it, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, dude, you starting to get a sore throat. So I finished drinking it, of course, and it did taste phenomenal
Yeah.
because even though it's a higher proof, man, you're getting all the notes out of that joker. And
Wow.
and then I was like, dude, you better get ahead of this before, because a lot of times what happens, I'll get sick every winter, and then like
Yeah.
it turns into like bronchitis, and I'll be like coughing for like weeks and weeks and weeks after I've already been done with the cold. So that's what I'm trying to get ahead of, so I don't have this nagging cough. And people keep saying it's a smoker's cough, and I'm like, nah, it's not, because I don't inhale cigars. So you know,
No, and even when you inhale some of the secondhand smoke, like you get minimal amount, especially if you're in a good place with good ventilation. You
yeah.
don't have to worry about that too much. I mean, I have a studio space in my garage, and I got a fan pulling
Mm-hmm.
the smoke out. It takes a little bit, and every now and then I get a good like, and I'm coughing. I even posted something about it on my Instagram where I'm like, it
Mm-hmm.
was in between takes. I was something, and the camera's still rolling, and I'm just like, smoking, and I'm blowing stuff out, and then I'm going to go take another puff, not realizing there's still some smoke in the chamber,
Mm-hmm.
and it went straight back. Like that was the first real time that I think I've actually legit inhaled like cigar smoke.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it just, oh
So,
man, it's a cough like no other. When it's cigar
yeah.
smoke, you're just like, God damn, it's
Yeah.
not fun.
I when I was learning how to retrohale, I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to make it go up through my nose, and it actually went the other way. Woo, man, I paid for that. So yeah, that, like you said, it's the worst when you get a good dose of cigar smoke, you just ingest it. Oh yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So that definitely increased my retrohale skills, because I was like, yeah, that's not gonna happen again. So
You want to know something funny? How I
yeah.
learned to retrohale. I actually learned how to retrohale before I ever smoked a cigar.
Okay.
Because when I was a kid, I had childhood asthma. And
Okay.
so, obviously I was prescribed an inhaler. And when I found out you could like hold the mist from the inhaler in your mouth, I would like sometimes occasionally like just puff it and blow it out. And then I somehow, I can't tell you how, figured out I could blow it through my nose.
Mm.
And it was not pleasant because it's very metallic and all that kind
Oh
of
yeah.
stuff. But
Hmm.
I knew how to do that when I first started smoking cigars, but then I tried to retrohale and that did not go well. So I didn't do it again for years. And it wasn't until a few years ago where I got linked up with a guy. His name's Brandon. He's a cigar broker, and he
Okay.
was introducing me and my friend Tim to all the boutique brands that we know and love today, and just
Mm.
it got us falling in love with boutiques in general. And he was saying, you got to try and retrohale. And I never
Hmm.
heard it described that way. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, through the nose. I'm like, oh man, I can't do that. He's like, you really need to do that. He's like, do you know how? I was like, I know how. It just didn't go well the first time I tried it. And he's like, well, you got to practice, man. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
First few times wasn't so good, but then after a while, I'm like, I'm never gonna not do this
Yeah.
because, like
Yeah.
you said, it opens it up so much more. You get way more out of the cigar than if you didn't.
Yeah.
And you know, some people are kind of. I've met a handful of people who are kind of like touchy about it. It's like, are you sure you should be doing that? Because that might increase the risk of like cancer because it gets into areas that it normally does. And I'm like,
Urban
I said,
legend.
I'm holding my smoke in my mouth. I said, if I were worried about that, I wouldn't be smoking. You know.
Yeah.
So, but it really is vital to have a great
Yeah.
cigar experience. And it's not for everyone. I
Yeah.
tried to get my dad to do it. He can't do it. He just doesn't want to.
Yeah.
I don't
A
think it
lot
works
of
as well for him.
people a lot of people don't realize how much their senses are engaged because they're not paying attention. Because even like if you're eating something, before you eat it, you smell it. you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, you imagine if you were eating and you decide to just pinch your nose and eat, it's not the same experience. The senses
No.
all go together. Even you
Yep.
seeing the food, that mentally gives you gets you ready to either you're gonna look at it and say, man, that shit looks nasty, or or it looks good, or it smells good or not, and then you go to the taste. So all of it goes together. And it's
Right. And
amazing how each industry, it doesn't matter whether it's wine or chefs or cigars, it's all the same shit, different product.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. Though on the flip side of that, it's funny because you can smell something that just smells absolutely gross, but then you
Mm-hmm.
taste it. It's just like,
Yeah.
why does this taste so good when it smells so nice? Like, you think
Oh
about
yeah.
like people who sample like cheeses and meats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some of that
Yeah.
shit smells nasty. Does not
Yeah.
smell good, but it
Yeah.
tastes amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
trip when it comes to the senses and how they engage certain things. Like it may not seem like not everybody loves the aroma of a cigar. I don't know how you couldn't, but
Right.
not everybody does.
Right.
Um, where like, I know people who love the smell of coffee, but they can't drink it. They're like, I just don't like the taste of it. I love the smell, can't do the
Yeah.
taste.
Yeah. I like the smell of coffee.
Mhm.
Like I said, it's the temperature thing, and I'm impatient, so I would like to if something's getting poured from me, I want to drink it when I want to drink it. I won't have to wait. You
Right.
know, like my wife puts a couple of ice cubes in her coffee, and I'm like, doesn't that defeat the purpose though? Like, aren't you watering it down? Like, I don't understand the concept of that.
Yeah,
So,
you should try some different cold brews and see if those appeal more to your taste. Because I've heard some like
yeah,
really good quality cold brews, and then people who enjoy cigars with them, like the
yeah,
cold opens up a little bit more depending on how the cold brew's done. Because there's a right way and there's a
hmm,
wrong way. There's cold brew, and then there's just letting your coffee get cold. you
yeah,
know,
hmm,
two different
hmm,
things. But I mean, it might be something to try just because you don't have to wait for it to cool down. It's made that way and temperature
yeah,
wise and
yeah.
stuff. So, but yeah,
And
no,
some
I
people have told
understand.
me the cold brews are actually a little stronger than
Yeah,
the hot versions. So, and I can't remember exactly what the ideology behind that was and why, but that's what
it's
that's what
how it's
people say.
brewed. It's how it's
Okay,
brewed and how it's prepared because it's kind of like steeped for a while
okay,
before it's put into your cup or a bottle or what all that kind of stuff. It has more time to absorb, I guess,
so it's
the
sort of like
full
letting it
flavor.
like teas steep for a long time, basically.
Hmm.
Okay,
So it allows more saturation, and you get a fuller flavor and fuller strength out of the coffee. So
okay,
there's a process. I couldn't tell you exactly how it works because, like, I know people who've made their own cold brew, and I'm like, oh well, and I say to them, I was like, well, I kind of have a cold brew that I make too. Like, well, what do you do? I was like, well, I just pour my coffee over ice. Like, that's iced coffee, not the same thing. It's like, all right, Mr. Snob, whatever.
right, right, right,
Everybody
right.
has their own way,
Mr.
but
Fancy Pants.
yeah, right. So, but no, yeah, I've been drinking coffee for so many years that even if it's fairly hot, it doesn't bother me too much, and doesn't, and
Okay,
thankfully deesn't deaden my palate. So, but
yeah.
I can't function without coffee. So,
Now you know what I noticed that I really shouldn't eat before I smoke cigars because I like
mm,
spicy stuff, like jalapenos. I've grown, and I think it's because of the aganorsa tobacco is starting to gear me towards like spice and stuff like that. So I like to put like jalapenos on my burgers or whatever. It's something about that spice kick that I like. But
oh,
I
me too.
also noticed that if I eat something spicy before I smoke a cigar, the cigar is bitter. Like
Yep,
with it, like it just mhm. Yeah,
it's that
it just
capsaicin
ruins the
in
experience.
the pepper. The capsaicin, it's such a hot oil. Even in
Yeah.
something as mild as jalapenos, it will just kill your palate. Like if it's
Hmm.
real actual like peppers, not like pepper extract or like stuff
Yeah.
that you sprinkle on stuff, but real peppers with that real capsaicin oil, man, that shit is
Hmm.
potent and it will kill your
Yeah.
palate and you can't
Yeah.
taste anything. So
Yes, I make sure. And sometimes I have to think about it because I'll be ordering something like, yeah, put the jalapenos on it. And I'm like, I'm getting ready to smoke. Take the jalapenos off. Like, don't do that. I want to enjoy the smoke. Yeah.
no, I like to smoke a cigar after having a steak or something like that. I know
Yeah.
that's usually a good precursor to a cigar, and
Hmm.
I I haven't done this in a while, and it just sounds really good right now. I need to have like a nice dark cigar with a glass of red wine because
Okay.
that's one of my favorite pairings ever, because I remember a while. It's been a long time since I've had wine, but I remember the last time I did, it was a Maduro cigar with a dry
Mm-hmm.
red wine. It was a
Okay.
Cabernet, I believe,
Okay.
and one of the best pairings ever, honestly. And it wasn't a particularly strong Maduro, but just
Mm.
because it has more of the fuller flavors and
Yeah.
the dry sweetness of the wine, it was really good.
Okay.
So you got to know what to put with it, just because, like, experimenting, you figure it out, but sometimes you just, like, you try a combination, you're like, well, that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Don't do
Yeah.
that again.
I've, I've had different ones and I was drinking it and smoking and I'm like, shit, yeah, this is gonna go together. Well, I mean, I tried beers, pairing beers and it doesn't work.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a lot of misses more than hits, because it's
oh
just
yeah.
beer, because one, because it's carbonated, two, because it's cold,
Hmm.
and three, I think, because beers, even if you're not drinking an IPA, or any kind of ale, they
Hmm.
still tend to be hoppy, and the hops just
Yeah.
interfere with any real
Hmm.
recognition of the flavors in your cigar. I mean, I drink beer with cigars. I did it last night, admittedly, but I wanted
Hmm.
a beer and I wanted a cigar, so I'm just like, fuck it, I don't care. Um, I want what I want, and I'm gonna get it. So I'm not
Yeah.
doing a review. I've smoked this cigar before, so it ain't hurting nothing. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, beers are not. I can't. I don't think I've ever found a beer that pairs well with a cigar, unless it was like a fruity, kind of a fruity beer, and you have it with a sweeter
Mm,
cigar. But even then, it's just,
yeah.
beers are too
I
acidic.
think I might. Yeah, I think that might irritate me if it's too sweet on both ends. The cigar
Yeah.
and the beer. Sort of like what are those? The beers like sours, where
Hmm.
they have like a fruit aspect to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say that's a no for me, dog.
Okay, Randy Jackson.
But yeah, because when
So
when I did the event at Cigar Hustler, they sell beer there. So I was like, fuck it, let me see if I can pair something with beer.
mhm.
And it was just fail after fail. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
it made the smoke real tough. And I was like, yo, like this is not it. But I was like, dude, I paid for the beer, so the beer, I'm going to finish the beer, and I
Oh
paid for the
yeah.
cigar, so they have to get finished. And I was
Hmm.
just like, dude, but they don't go together well. So
No, I
I
would
see
say like a
why
closest.
Drew Estates used to have a cigar that they claim they pair with beer, and I see why they don't sell it anymore because that shit don't work. So
Oh, it's talking about Drew Estates, man. I already know one of their newer cigars, what I'm going to pair it with, just because they go hand in hand, and that's the new blackened cigar with blackened whiskey.
oh yeah,
I'm
now is
so
that
excited
cigar
for that.
is it infused or because I don't
No,
understand the
it's an
concept.
all Maduro cigar. It's an all Maduro
Uh,
cigar, and it was
yeah,
developed by James Hetfield of Metallica,
yeah.
um, Jonathan Drew, and Robert Dietrich, who's a master distiller, and he's the
I heard
one who,
Willie did that blend though.
huh?
Yeah, I heard Willie did the blend though. Maybe that's not true.
Maybe. Well, it was a passion
Yeah.
project between the three guys. Robert
Okay.
Robert Dietrich got James Hetfield, hooked up, linked him up with Jonathan Drew, and I
Hmm.
think just all together it was a collective project of just trying different tobaccos and stuff. But it's an all Maduro cigar. Um,
Okay.
Full flavor, not particularly strong. Says it has a kick to it, but
Hmm.
I've had black and whiskey. I don't know if you've ever tried black and whiskey.
Yeah, I've had it here in
It's
Chicago at the World of Whiskey. They were there. So yeah.
Yeah, it was good. So
Yeah, I liked it.
I'm excited to try it, because
It was
Jack Hare, I don't know if you
hmm
know Jack, he does a lot
hmm
of their PR marketing and social media for Drew Estate.
He was just on Cigar Dojo's live like a week
Hmm.
ago or something. So I saw him on there. I've never met him
Yeah,
though.
he's a friend of mine. I met him about 3 years ago when he used to work for Alec Bradley.
No,
And
okay.
so,
Yeah.
and then not long after that was when he moved to Florida to go work for Drew Estate. So yeah, he's a buddy. And
Hmm.
I usually get,
He seemed like a nice guy.
he is a very nice guy, and he loves what he does, and he loves connecting with people, and we talk periodically. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's just, I get excited about things like that, where it's just like, you don't know 100% for sure if it's going to be a good pairing, but you're just excited to try it, and you just like,
Yeah.
you're
Do,
looking forward to the experience, however good or poorly it goes. You're just like, yeah, give it a
mhm.
try and see how it
Do
goes.
they have a suggested pairing for it for the Blackened line or no?
I'm pretty sure they would say pair with black and whiskey, but I doubt they're going to be that restrictive. It's like try with black and first, see
Yeah.
if you like it, and then try with something else. I mean, I'm sure it
Well,
would go
shit.
good
Yeah.
with any
Yeah.
bourbon or
If I own Blackened, yeah, I'd be telling them, yeah, it needs to be paired with Blackened. I was just wondering if it was a particular expression of Blackened because they have a few of them
yeah,
that I saw when I met the rep at the World of Whiskey. So
really.
I just didn't understand the concept of the cigar because I was like, well, is it infused with the whiskey or is this name blackened or
The reason why it's
so
called Blackened, it's named after a song that Metallica did, Pure and Simple.
okay, okay,
And so I think in that vein, they decided to make a really dark cigar, really dark and rich, all Maduro cigars. So I mean, because why the hell not? I mean,
yeah,
you made a whiskey, why not make a cigar? Because you know, when you have the time and the money, that's the kind of shit you do. You
yeah,
know.
oh yeah,
So good things can come out of passion projects like that. So I'm excited to
oh
try it.
yeah,
And it's just it's
yeah.
I'm always looking
I'm for
forward
one.
to that. Uh Not like the next new thing, but just that kind of interesting project
Mm-hmm.
or innovative thing that people do, whether it's with cigars or even
Yeah,
cigar accessories, because there's been some wild shit that's come out in the last couple of years.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. I just hopped on Blacken's website.
mhm.
Yeah, they have at least
They have
three
two, I
different
think.
expressions. Is it two? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
I see
have
two here.
they
Yeah,
have
got it.
the blackened American whiskey, which is a rye bourbon blend, and the newest
Yeah,
one,
he's in that brandy cast.
yeah, the
Oh, they
newest
got a
one is
rye.
called Rye the Lightning.
Yeah, yeah, that's a limited edition. I see that one. They got some kind of collaboration with Willet. That's a ride too.
Hmm.
Uh, limited edition Black Album whiskey pack. Uh, yeah,
Ah,
they got a few different bottles on here. Yeah, so I would just be curious, like which one would they suggest would go with that cigar?
yeah. So I mean, I'm down to try it for sure. So it's one of the wonderful things about what I do is being able to link up with people like yourself or
Mm,
other manufacturers or people who just know people, and they connect you with some really great things, cigars and events and whatnot. So
mhm.
it's just a huge pleasure, huge privilege, and that's why I love doing this. It's
Yeah,
a blast because I never thought I'd be doing this. Honestly, when I first started, it was just an Instagram page. That's all it was.
hmm.
And
Yeah,
now here I am talking with you and other people who love this shit to death, and it's awesome. It's a
yeah.
great time
It's a
getting
fun
having
industry.
conversations with them. Oh yeah.
Yeah, very fun, very welcoming industry. I did a lot of homework before I decided to even create a cigar. And when I say that, like I said, I went and sat with JD several times, and Pete Johnson gave me advice, and Skip and Mike from Roma Crab gave me advice, and Lito
Mhm.
Gomez. I mean, it goes on and on. The people I went and sought out to learn before, and I think that's why a lot of people like me now because they remember me when they first met me. And they're
Right.
like, dude, because I was at Intertabac this past September, and I ran into JD, and he was like, dude, he was like, I didn't expect you to be here. I was like, bro, I'm growing, just like you grow, just like you were growing when you were
Hmm.
my size. And he was like, dude, he was like, man, I remember when you didn't have a cigar at all. And I was like, yeah. That's the humble beginnings always keep me humble, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always try to keep that in mind too, because like what I was telling, I was at a lounge the other night and I was talking with
Mm,
Antonio from Renato yesterday. It's just like one of those things where you have to stay humble, you have to continue to be grateful, and also make sure you don't become entitled or let your ego get too big
yeah.
because it could all
Mm-hmm.
just go away. Like
Mm-hmm.
the pleasures and privileges I get to enjoy right now, because of the kindness and generosity of so many people, I'm I I get to one, do this. My humidor is always very well stocked, and it's just I never ever take it for granted because it's like it could just stop one day. It could
Yeah,
just stop,
of course.
and I'm not entitled to anything. I don't think I'm, you know, necessarily deserving of any of it, but I'm grateful for the friends I've made, connections I've made, networking I've been able to do where people they're just like, absolutely, man, love to work with you, collaborate with you, talk with you.
Hmm.
And it just, like you said, very welcoming, very
Yeah.
accepting. You're on whenever you sit down and have a cigar with somebody, you are on equal footing at
Oh
that
yeah.
point. Doesn't matter how much
Yeah.
money you make, doesn't matter how well off or not so well off you are.
Yep.
It's
Very true.
you get to sit down and have a cigar with somebody, you're on the same level, and it's awesome. I love it.
Hmm.
So, well, man,
Yeah.
it's I think we've talked about all we could talk about for this one, and then it's been a great conversation. I'm really glad
Indeed,
we were
brother.
able to connect, and it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
hanging. You're very welcome anytime, and I look forward to whenever you're back in California, whenever that is. I know you travel quite a bit. I
Yeah.
would imagine
Sometime
you're
next
going to
year.
be, yeah, I would
Mhm.
imagine you're going to be at the next couple big trade shows, TPE and PCA.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gearing up for TPE.
Okay.
They're already trying to see if I'm coming back to Enter Tobacco, and I just don't know yet because that was a expensive trip. You know,
Hmm.
it's in Dortmund, Germany. So,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
it's good for us because we're trying to get on the international scale. But everybody told us that they love the cigars, but everybody told us also that they move really slow. And then some other manufacturers told us that they had to come to that particular trade show at least 3 or 4 years in a row just to get an order. And I'm like, that equates to like almost $30,000. So yeah, that I was like that math didn't add up to me. I could
Yeah.
stay here and just sell. But yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
at TPE and PCA for sure.
Yeah. I'm shooting for PCA because the beginning of next year is going to be tricky to try and make it out to Vegas and do all that. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
planning for PCA, which I think will work out better for me and all that. So with any luck, I'll see you there and
Yeah, cool,
get to
cool.
hang out with you and a bunch of other people that like I only ever see virtually and don't get to connect with too often. I get to see certain people semi regularly, but then there's the rest who's like I know you through my phone and through my computer. That's it. So
Yeah.
it would
Hmm.
be awesome to finally get to connect with everyone in person. So
Yeah. Oh
fingers
yeah. It
crossed.
always is.
Fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
yeah.
So well, thank you again, Aric, for joining me on the show, and let everyone know where can they find you.
So you can go to my website, which is www.blackstarline.shop.
Mhm.
I do have I sell hats and shirts and hoodies and cigars and flasks and glasses. All that stuff is on there. But there also is a retailer page on there. So you can look at the retailer page and see where we carry that and see if there's somewhere close to you that you can go and just pick my cigars up.
Mhm.
Other sites you could pick my stuff up at is Small Batch, or you could buy from Underground's website online. Who else has us online? Privada Club has us online as well. So those are
Okay.
three, pretty sizable websites that you can find my stuff on too. So
Mhm.
you see, yeah. So if you want to find me, you can either find me in the lounges or find me online or buy directly from me. I ship out via UPS. So and I
Okay.
actually pack up all the packages myself. So I
Right
hand
on.
pack everything. So
Right on.
mm-hmm.
So, and obviously you got your socials. You got Black Star Line Cigars on Instagram. Are you on
Yeah.
any other social platforms?
Yeah, Facebook. Yeah, Facebook is Black Star Line Cigars.
Hmm.
There's a page where you could just like Black Star Line on there, and
Hmm.
there's also a Black Star Line group on Facebook too. So
Okay.
and we got
Awesome.
like 1,200 people in the group right now. So
Very
yeah,
nice. Well, I'll make sure to leave links for all of that in the description for the video so people can connect
cool.
with you and, check out your product and check you out on socials. So they
Indeed,
will
brother.
find you. They will find you. So,
Indeed.
well, thanks again, Aric. It was a
Mm-hmm.
pleasure. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And as always, we will
Mm-hmm.
catch you in the next one.